Hey y'all, what's up? And welcome back to another episode of Versions of Healing, which is the interview segment of the Healing Version podcast. Today's guest, Shannon Curtis, has walked a profound journey of healing, transformation, and spiritual awakening. She has overcome addiction, childhood sexual trauma, depression, anxiety, miscarriages, infertility, and the painful ending of a 15-year marriage. Through facing her deepest wounds, she discovered that self love is the foundation of true recovery, and that we are all spiritual beings learning to rise again and again. Shannon turned her pain into purpose and now helps others do the same. She is the founder of Angel Goddess Healing, where she guides individuals on their path to emotional freedom, spiritual growth, and inner peace. She is also the author of No More Monsters Under the Bed, Shining Your Light on the Dark, a powerful reminder that our fears lose power when we step into our light. Her message is beautifully simple. We are love, and sometimes we just need someone to help us remember. Please join me in welcoming Shannon Curtis to the Healing Version. Hi, Shannon. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm feeling so blessed to be here. And thank you for having me as a guest and just giving me a platform to share my story.
Absolutely. I'm really excited about this conversation and I thank you so much for being here. All right, so we're just gonna go right into it. All right, so I like to just talk about like the beginning and your awakening. So when you look back, where does your healing story truly begin for you?
I would say my true healing story, as we all know, it's such a journey, but my big profound moment led me to Mexico, sitting with one of the most powerful psychedelic plant medicines. And that's where my awakening happened. I had a remembrance. I had a remembrance of a painful memory when I was 4. I was taken by, I say a gentleman, I was taken by someone when I was 4, and I had selective memories because what we find is earlier the trauma is your brain fragments and you don't always remember. So I ended up in Mexico and I was really wanting to find out what happened and do that last bit of healing. And so that's where it led me was I saw what happened and it confirmed everything I always knew, that I was molested. And so with that, that's where I faced my perpetrator and found forgiveness for him. And that's really where my journey began and all my spiritual mediumship gifts unlocked after I really learned to face the trauma and learn how to move through it.
Oh wow. So how was that like being in that atmosphere and how was it to like learn that like what was that moment like?
Yes, so it was, and the way I describe it, I sat with the medicine. It's called iboga, and it's from West Africa, and it's just a tree shrub they've been using for generations. And so it's called ibogaine. They use it, and it's this beautiful center called Ambio Life Sciences, and they found miraculous healing. It clears up TBIs. Anyone with heroin addicts, they don't have to go through with the withdrawals. And there's a lot of things that they're finding that's very powerful. And so the best way I describe it, it's dreamlike. It's kind of like if you've ever had a dream that feels so real. And that's what it is. And so it was this wonderful space of a medical team because you have to check. Sometimes it can lower your heart rate. And so you're hooked
Mhm.
up to monitors, but then they also create this really sacred spiritual space and honor the traditions of the tribe that where it came from. And so that's what I would say is that you wear a mask and you lay down. They do it at night. And there was five of us women there. And so whenever you have the mask on, you're like in a dream, but it feels real. And then when someone comes and taps you on the shoulder, you can do your mask and you're like, hey, and so you're there. So it's that very much like black and white. You put your mask back on, you're back in the medicine. And so it was a really nice way to do that. But at the very beginning, the essence of God came to me and he was like, are
Mhm.
you ready? And I said, I'm ready. And I knew why I was there. It was to see what happened to me because we'll get into it. But about 7, 8 years prior to that, I had gotten sober from a 7 year long addiction to pain medicine. And it was always trying to heal that trauma, to numb it, to numb it. And so when I went to
Mhm.
treatment and I went to an amazing place called the Meadows in Arizona that does trauma work, we tried to remember that. And for me, there wasn't talk therapy. It just would not bring it out for me. And so
Mhm.
when I sat with this medicine and God was next to me and he was like, are you ready? I said, yes. So what it did was it showed me as I was the viewer. It was almost like watching a movie. And so when I looked, I was looking inside the car, and I was on the left-hand side in the passenger seat, and the perpetrator was on the right. And so in a very gentle way, the medicine showed me, confirmed what had happened. And so in that instant, I felt everything. I felt sadness for that little girl that I was looking at. I felt relief because I was like, everything I always knew was to be true. And then I felt anger. And I looked down, and all I can say, it was like a knotted yarn, wiry ball of mesh. And I looked down, it's this circle ball in my stomach, my pelvic area. And I look at God, and I'm like, this is bad. This is bad. This is anger. And I said, I have to give this back. And so I immediately in that moment gave that back to my perpetrator. All the anger, all the shame that I had been carried, I gave it back to him. But then there's that essence of God just right next to me. And I'm still looking at my perpetrator, but I'm looking at him from a higher level as God sees all of us. And so in that moment, I saw him as me. And I was like, I have to forgive him. I can't hate him. He is the same of me. And so in that moment, I understood it was done for me, not to me. Because if I wanted to experience forgiveness, I had to have someone do something to me. And so as soon as I did that and I forgave him and saw him in the eyes of just love, it was the most amazing, beautiful feeling I've ever felt in my life. And so that's what I learned is forgiving is for giving love. And forgetting is for getting your power back. And it was that simple concept of shifting my perspective. And then after that, the rest of my journey was just amazing and flying all over the world, different timelines and just lifetimes. And it was all this amazing stuff. But I had to first release that anger that had been literally anchoring me down. And so that was probably the most profound thing that happened to me, was experiencing the true feeling of forgiveness and what it really, really means to forgive somebody.
Oh wow. That is very powerful. That's powerful to be able to go into that realm of space and think back and to forgive your perpetrator. Do you remember who the person was? Not that you have to share it now, but was it that vivid that you that's
Yes.
and
Yes. I
I've had
always knew who it was.
okay, okay.
I always knew it was a family friend, and I would say acquaintance. It was an older male. I was four, and
Hmm.
maybe in his late 20s, early 30s. And so he just stopped by and the house one day, and my mom and dad worked, and my two older sisters were at school. So I was at home with the housekeeper. And so he asked if he could take me for the day, and she tried to call my mom to see if it was okay. And fate had it, she didn't answer. And so she let me go with him. And so what happened was I remember bits and pieces of him taking me places and McDonald's. And back in the 80s, when you got to go, you got a balloon. And so I remember coming home with the balloon. Thank goodness. And my mom came home from work and she saw my red balloon, which is very ironic because in my journey, it was a red, ball of yarn. And she asked where that came from. And as soon as I told my mom, I could immediately imagine my 4-year-old self sense and feel all the anger and scaredness from my mom, not towards me, but I would
Hmm.
imagine again, my 4-year-old self was like, nope. And so she, of course, asked me, did anything happen? And I said, no. And all my life, my mom always asked me. She asked me many different ways. We would go lay down in the bed and she'd turn the lights off and try to ask in the dark and all these different things. But that's what happens is I didn't want to tell because I could sense my mom's anger. But how am I supposed
Hmm.
to understand as a 4-year-old if that anger was for me for going with this person or if it was for him? And so it's nothing my mom did wrong, but I also have come to understand it comes up when it's supposed to come out. And so I always think
Absolutely.
back at that. What if my mom, I said yes? That could have changed our family forever.
Wow, that's powerful. Because that makes so much sense. Because when you think about it, so like if you would have told your parents when you were four, and they would have reacted in a way that it would have, I don't know, it could have blew up, and no telling what they could have done to the guy, and could have happened to your dad. Um, but I feel like it happened in a way to where you were supposed to be set up to help your daughter through it, because it could have just stopped there, and you would have felt like all this guilt because like, oh, this happened because of me. if I would have never said that, then my dad wouldn't be in jail. So
Yeah.
that makes so
Yeah.
much sense. That's
Or going to a doctor. Imagine how traumatizing that might have been to go to the police. And it's like, it's okay if that's what happens. But I think about that. I'm a big like gratitude person. And so my gratitude is I didn't have to have any more trauma of going and telling the story or going and getting medically examined, whatever it was. Those are
hmm
those things that I just trust in spirit. I trust in God, the universe, that it unfolded exactly how it was supposed to unfold. So I don't think about the what ifs. I don't think about the guilt. I don't think about the shame. I know for my daughter, like you said, that's generational trauma. My mom had her trauma that wasn't fully healed. I had mine, and then it got passed to my daughter. But now I healed mine, and my daughter's healing hers. And so my prayer and my knowing really feels like it's going to stop with her, because that's what happens with
yes,
generational trauma. It gets passed down and passed down and passed down. So someone finally figures it out and says the only
yes.
way through this is to sit in the pain.
Yes. Yes. We gotta it hurts. It's not comfortable. It's not a good feeling, but we have to. It's just it's so necessary. So that kind of leads me into the next thing, which is the addiction. So I know just based on like my family is it's like a lot of addiction and a lot of times I'm like really judgy, but going through this healing journey and doing my own research and just looking into things and then just being more graceful, I am realizing that there's a lot of things that my relatives that are addicted to things is they're numbing something. There's something that happened. And for some of them, there is some childhood traumas and sexual things that happen. Um, so can you talk a little bit about how addiction or how, your childhood or anything that happened to you within life led you to your addiction?
Mhm. So, and I work with a lot of people, my clients, a lot of them have addiction or alcohol issues. And that's what it is my philosophy is let's not be judging. Let's be curious. So that's that thing of, I always say, if you see someone on the street that's homeless and our first judgment, our human brain says, oh, they're lazy. Oh, they're this. Oh, they're an addict. Oh, they're alcohol. And we kind of do that. What if we were curious enough to walk up to that person, that homeless person on the street? And I guarantee you, they have a story of how they got there. And there's got to be some pain in there. And so that's what it is with anyone who's struggling with addiction or has somebody in their family or alcoholism. That's what it is let's not be judgmental of it, because that's not going to fix the problem. The problem is the curiosity of where's it stemming from, because the addiction was never the problem. It was what it was trying to numb. And so for me, I have no shame with my addiction, because it was actually a very beautiful tool for me to use for 7 years, because I wasn't able to handle what was going on. I didn't know. And so that's what happens is I truly feel when we start being curious and asking the people that are suicidal or depression, and not judge it and stop shaming the answers, I really think we can start getting down to the bottom of it, literally the root of it. And that's what we have to do. Is there's always a reason. I did not wake up and said, hey guys, I want to be addicted to pain medicine. That sounds like great fun. That's not how it is. And so it's just stopping to be curious. And that's what I help my clients with, is removing the shame. And you know what my shame was? My perpetrator shame. It wasn't mine.
hmm
It was theirs, but I carried it and carried it, and I couldn't carry it. So I had to numb it. That's what happens. It's just being curious. We don't want to feel yucky. So we're going to use anything to help us feel better. And in that moment, pain medicine helped me feel better. It numbed my pain till I was ready to handle it.
So, what would you say that addiction looked like for you? Like, what was like an everyday
Mhm.
life like for you?
So mine started when my daughter was born. I had, let's say, when I was 11, I started my period. By the time I was 13, 14, 15, I was at the doctor. I had surgery when I was a junior in high school, had endometriosis, and then I had to have another surgery. I had a bladder disease. I had a hysterectomy. Menopause, I went through at 35. I mean, you name it, I had it all. And so I always had that pain attached to that. And so the day my daughter was born, she was C-section. And so of course they give you morphine. And that was that moment of oh, this is a relief. And so they send you home with pain medicine. And my husband at the time, he started working out of town the same week. So here I was, a new mom with this baby, and the pain medicine for me, for whatever reason, it gave me energy. I used it for just to do housework, and it sounds silly, but that's what it was. It let me
Mhm.
function. It didn't make me sleepy and I just lay on the couch and sleep all day. It actually gave me energy. So of course I used it, and that's how mine began. And it was all through doctors, and I had pain management doctors because I had valid pain. But at the same time, if I would have ever stopped to really sit at the root of the problem, then maybe I would have done that. So for 7 years, every day, there was 3 months that I was sober, that I did it all on my own, and I do not wish it on my worst enemy. The withdrawals were horrific. And that's why I know a lot of people stay on it, because at the end of mine, I was only taking it so I wouldn't go through withdrawals. And I remember looking at hotels that maybe I could go for the weekend and say I was going to visit a friend just to withdraw on my own, because I had so much shame. It was this dark, dirty secret. And so my life kind of imploded. And I ended up, was married 7 years at the time, and ended up having a very short but an affair. And what happened was, I'm over here saying, look at me, I'm hurting over here, and
Mhm.
nothing. And I, instead of saying I need help, I kept acting out. And so I always tell people, when you act the worst, it's when you need to be loved the most, because there's something you're trying to say. And so once all of that came out, and my mom was on the phone, and before she could even get the words out and say, will you please get help? I was like, yes. And I was on the plane the next day. That's how much I wanted it. I was just waiting to be seen and heard,
Mhm.
because I didn't think I was worthy enough at the time to get help. So I was waiting for somebody else to ask for it. So once I did that, I never looked back. And it's been about 8, 9 years. I've had surgery, I've had kidney stones without pain medicine. I've had all these things to where I don't need it anymore. It literally fell off, and I no like no cravings, nothing, because it no longer served its purpose. I was healing, and healed people, you don't need those numbing tools. And so that's how mine looked. But I was so relieved that I didn't have to think about it every day, or count the pills,
Mhm.
or when my prescription was going to run out. It was exhausting, and I was just tired, and my body was tired, and I was ready to get help.
And so when you got help, did you go to like a facility or what was that
Yeah, so I
like?
went to a treatment center. It's called the Meadows, and Arizona, Wickenburg, Arizona. They have a couple. They have a California, Dallas now. But what I love, they do the Pia Medley. She wrote the book Codependency, and she does all the inner child stuff that you have to heal the inner child. And so that's what their concept is based off. And they do a lot of trauma
Mhm.
work. And so what I loved about the place was we did body, mind, and soul. We did that. But the real big thing that I found was all the work we did was in groups. I think I had for 6 weeks, I only had like 2 sessions alone, because the reason why is it takes the shame away. So when you're sitting in a group of women, and I was in the women's group, and you tell your story or you tell your worst things, someone else next to you is like, oh, I same thing with me. It takes the shame away. So that's the where that
Mhm.
creating that environment. That's why AA works for a lot of people, because you have a space to hear other people. And the one first thing I'll never forget, I think it was the first week I was there, my roommate, we were talking, and she was a mom, and her thing was Adderall. And at that time, I didn't even really know what that was. Now I do in that whole space. But I remember her saying that same reason, it was just to be a mom. And I remember being like, I thought I was the only one in the whole world that had this problem. And I remember when she said that, and I was like, Shannon, you're not alone. And so when you feel that, that's that human connection that we're longing for. And that's that letting go of that shame, thinking we're the only one and no one's going to understand us. And so their concept was really built on that, to using the group, using the tools of the connection for other people, and removing the shame. And so that was something that I really loved about it. But we also did meditation, and, and healthy, there was no sugar there, and you didn't have coffee. And it was that mind, body, soul concept. And so I went out of there amazing. But again, it was that last 1%, that one memory that I tried with a somatic therapist, and we just couldn't. And he's like, that's okay. The body knows, sometimes the mind, it's a protection. And that's what I tell people. The younger you are with the sexual abuse, the less memories you have, because again, it's a beautiful reason. It's a protection. So my 4-year-old self could not even comprehend what happened to me. So how could I even tell my mom? And so that's that thing of why you fragment it. And it comes in
Mm-hmm.
bits and pieces, because if it came all at once, you might not be able to handle it. And so that's where I trusted and knew, but not until I sat in the plant medicine, it came up. But I truly believe, because it removed my ego. It removed my ego. I could watch it as I was
Mm-hmm.
watching a movie. So it wasn't really done to me. And so it wasn't as painful, and it helped me process the trauma, which is so important.
I like that. So I've never really outside of watching the show. What is the show called? The inter what is the one when they do the intervention with the loved
Oh,
ones, and it's
intervention. Mhm.
intervention. And I've watched those shows, and I see that they go into like the the houses to get help to, but I've never seen where it's like mind, body, and soul, and like getting down to the root of the problem. And I feel like if you are not doing that, if you're not tapping in with the inner child, you're just putting a band-aid on it, and you're not truly healing. So I'm really happy to hear that there's somewhere that they're actually like, hey, we're gonna get to the root of it. You said no
Yes.
coffee and no sweets. Is that because
No.
of like the what is it, the that hormone
Alcohol.
they
So when you crave alcohol, when you're an alcoholic and you withdraw, you want sugar, because what is alcohol? Sugar. And so they're
mm,
trying to do that. And sugar is a drug itself. Our body starts to crave it. And so
yes.
that's where a lot of that is. And you hit it the nail on the head. That's why I created Angel Goddess Healing, because I don't want anyone to ever experience that either. So if people are going through things, in my opinion, what I found is a lot of rehab treatments, it's for the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the money, because
Mm,
how many people come back and back and back? So why would they really, really want you to heal? Because then you're one time and done. And so that's why in Ambio Life Sciences in Mexico and Texas, where I live, just passed a huge bill where they're studying it. And a lot of celebrities are going there. And Brett Favre, the football player, just went there. They're healing TBIs. And so they're getting a lot of spotlight on it. So they're starting to study it. But that's what it is it's a one-time thing usually. Maybe go twice stuff if you have a lot of brain issues, but I don't need to go back. And so, and it's not something you do on the weekend. It is the strongest thing. It's not fun. I had kind of a 1%, I would say, mine, anyone listening, and they sit in that. Most people don't have the most beautiful thing that I did. It's really hard and going through stuff, and you're sitting in at least 12 hours. And so that's
mm-hmm.
where it's like I say, it's like the power wash kind of medicine, but it rewires everything. It rewires your neurotransmitters. And so you really, when you get home, you feed it with new stuff, and it helps kind of anchor that in. But that's what I understood was, oh, that makes sense. This is a one-time thing versus treatment centers. Like you said, it's a 30 days,
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, get off your pills. Okay, you're bad. You're the addict. But again, I always tell my clients, it's not the husband, it's not the boyfriend, it's not what happened in high school. You usually have to go all the way back to that little child, whatever happened.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just your parents get divorced. Sometimes, you just didn't get enough love and you were not seen and heard. Those are those wounds that if you don't feel seen and heard when you're a child, you are going to keep on searching for that outside of yourself. And so what I do with my clients is I teach them to find that love for that little child from themselves. And so we do that, like going back to that. And I take that little 4-year-old self and I'm like, I gotcha. You're coming with me. You don't need anybody else. I love you. And that's where you bring in God and that power and that strength. It's all within you. And when you realize it's within you, you will never, ever have to seek outside of yourself. And that is the true power of healing.
Yes, I would love to see the statistics on like the treatment centers versus where you went. What was the name of the place you went to
So it's
again?
Ambio Life Sciences, and they're like a year booked out right now, but they're having a lot of they're building more houses, and now they're doing the Parkinson's and MS. And the country musician Clay Walker just went there, and they're literally seeing these powerful, amazing things. It's almost healing everything. It started with addiction. So heroin addicts would go, and you don't go through with the withdrawals. Literally, you start it and then you take the medicine, and they don't have all of that stuff. And so then the
Wow.
vets, they use it for all the PTSD. And my partner I'm with, He went before me, and he had depression and suicide and TBIs, and he has just had this beautiful recovery. But it's because it's healing from the inside out. That's the thing we're missing
Yes.
as a
Yes.
society. It's not working. It's just like the school stuff, all
Yes.
those things. We're literally feeding our children drugs. We pump them
Mm-hmm.
full of sugar, and then we sit them in a desk for 8 hours. And then if they wiggle at all because of all the sugar and all the just being a kid, we give them medicine. Then we put them on ADD medicine. So what it
Mm-hmm.
is I'm seeing we're creating these addicts, and then we're putting them in front of gaming, and then they're gaming all day and they're getting that, or social media, they're getting their dopamine hits. And so what it is I'm just seeing the answer is the opposite. I tell my clients, do the opposite of everything you've ever been told, this programming, because it's not working. It's not working. That's the thing. If it was working, great, but
Yeah.
it's not.
Wow. Wow. So, what was your self love discovery within your healing from addiction? What did that look like for you?
I think the biggest thing was seeing it wasn't my shame I was carrying. It's like a backpack. You walk around with a backpack and someone does something to you and puts in a brick, and someone's mean to you, someone this or that. Before you know it, you're carrying this heavy backpack of everyone else's stuff. And so I had to go through, and same thing I do with my clients. I take a brick out and you're like, let's look at that. Is that mine or is that theirs? And so if it's theirs, I'm just going to put that down and I'm not carrying that anymore. So I think the self-love was coming back to that, is what is mine and what is someone else's.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Yep. And so
That's
that's where you find the love.
good.
Yeah.
that's
It's so
that's
simple,
good.
but we
Mm-hmm.
complicate it. That's what I tell everybody. It's so simple. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not saying it's easy. And I don't ask my clients to do anything I haven't done. But in my plant medicine journey, yes, it was in kind of this dream realm that I forgave my perpetrator. But now my daughter's going through hers. And just a couple weeks ago, I literally looked right across from her perpetrator in his eyes. And I said, I forgive you. I forgive you, because I'm not holding on to this anger anymore, because I know what anger
Mm-hmm.
does to me. So I'm giving you back all your shame, all your badness. And over here, we're healing. We're healing over here. But this
Mm-hmm.
anger is not mine to carry, because yes, if my belief system is it was done for me, then it's done for my daughter. And so I'm seeing that I am walking through having her learn how to get her power back. And she's not there yet. And I tell people it's okay. I know what I'm doing is very hard concept, but that's why I know I'm doing it, so I can go off and spread the message of forgiveness. Again, is for giving, but it's about yourself. And what happens is we're so afraid to let go of that anger because we hurt. We want them to hurt. We want them to feel our pain, but it's
Mm-hmm.
pain. So when you give it back to them and you're like, this is yours, the only thing I'm left with is love for myself. But what's very important is it's boundaries. It's not saying I agree with your behavior. It's not saying I condone it. It's not saying I'm okay with it. What I'm saying is it's not mine. It's yours. And so my boundary is I will not tolerate this behavior, which is ultimately self-love for myself.
Yes, yes. That it takes some spiritual maturity, some mental maturity to forgive someone that you know that have wronged you, especially in the lowest of the lowest ways, especially when it comes to innocent children. So I commend you, both you and your daughter, because yeah, like I said, it takes maturity.
It's hard. It's
It
hard
takes
work.
maturity. Yes, it
Yeah,
is. It is
she's
because
not there
it's.
yet, and she's not there yet, and
Mhm.
that's okay. But that's what it is let's think about it. How sad is it for someone? How much hurt could they be feeling to inflict hurt on somebody else? Right?
Mhm.
That's that concept of hurt people. Right? Nice,
Yes.
happy people, they don't do that. They don't go around hurting people. You only hurt people because you're trying to inflict your pain on another. And again, it's that
Mhm.
connection. I want someone else to hurt. And so my concept is, guys, we got to start asking the whys, because I looked at her perpetrator and I said, I forgive you, but please go get help, because I would imagine somebody did it to you. You don't just wake up one day, just like the addict. You don't wake up and say, oh, I want to do this. It is a learned behavior. It is from somewhere. So it goes back
Yes.
to that. We have to be curious to ask and stop this whole just judgment. And it's the judgment of judgment. Not judging isn't saying I'm okay with it. It's just, how are we going to fix the problem? Because what it is, yeah, you can lock them all up, which yes, they need to be. But at the same time, what if about 5 victims of there, I guarantee you one of those 5 victims is going to become the next perpetrator. So we're
Mhm.
literally just doing the cycle. It's like prison. We lock them all up in this anger, but we're not asking these men and women, why are you angry? What
Right.
is so angry?
Rehabilitation is what
Yes.
they need. Yeah,
Yes.
that's yeah, I
Love.
we yeah, they the tough love rehabilitation because if you lock them up for whatever period of time and they're young enough to get out, do you think they're going to get out and be like, "Yeah, I was locked up, so I'm never going to do it again."
Right.
No, we got to get to
No.
the root of the problem. Like, why? So I completely agree. Like, I completely agree. You are amazing. I love everything you're doing in this journey that you're on, and the fact that God put you in position to be who you are for your daughter. That's amazing. I love the story. So I like to talk about marriage. So you were married for how long?
15 years.
15 years. And so, what would you say was the downfall of your marriage and how did it end?
I think for me, it started probably from the beginning. I was never my fully authentic self. And so I even tell my ex that it's not really his fault, because if I was the way I am now, he probably wouldn't have wanted to marry me, because I was completely different. I wasn't spiritual. I wasn't all these things. I wasn't my full self. And so I didn't know, I was afraid to be that. And so I put on this kind of thing of this perfect wife, and I was the housewife, and he had a great job and built a beautiful home, and he traveled for work. And at the end of it, I was losing connection, but I was ultimately losing myself. And I just kept feeling that and feeling that little bit of that roar inside of me. And so when I turned 40, I just felt it and I knew. And I was like, something's coming up. And I was dying. Felt like a little piece of me was dying every day because I wasn't being authentic. And so the hardest thing I ever had to do, because it wasn't this big blow up, it wasn't this big thing. It was just finally this thing of, I can't do it anymore. It's killing me. You know what it was? I truly knew I had more to do than just being a mom and a housewife. I
Mm-hmm.
truly believed it. And so that was that spirit, that thing, like you said, to come. I would have never done this. I would have never done this if I just stayed in my comfort of being in this beautiful home and being just the housewife and the mom. And so that's where I help women too, especially when you go through a divorce. It's like, who am I? And that's why I was like, I'm more than this. I'm more than this. And so once I did that, then the scary part, you're like, now what? Now what? What am I going to do? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have a credit card in my name. I couldn't even get one. And so I kind of walked away from it all. He kept the house and I just started over from the ground up. And it's been a couple years, but I can honestly say I literally created my life. I started with my passion. What do I want to do? And I truly felt like for me, I didn't need to go back to school. I didn't do college. I didn't need to go for 4 years to get a degree to help people. And so I became a coach and I work with people on all different levels, but one was the psychedelic coaching. But it's just being able to tell my story. Because when you go to therapy, they tell you the things, but they can't really share their story. And so a lot of the reason why coaching helps and my clients is I get to share. I've been there. I've been the addict. I've been divorced. I've been all these things. And so it gives us more of
Mm-hmm.
a connection and more of a way that they're going to believe me that it really works because I'm walking it. I say it's not my job. It is my lifestyle. I do this every day. It's not
Mm-hmm.
something I just turn off. It's something I believe in because I see the power of finding your purpose. You have to find your passion, but then you have to find your purpose and then you have to put it into action. And so I help people with just starting at the simple of, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? If you could do anything, what do you want to do? And so many people don't know. They just do work to pay the bills. I did the opposite. I first found out what I want to do, my passion, and then I created all of that around it. And it's this beautiful thing of I literally get paid to be me, to just to be me, to tell what I think. And it was like this,
Hmm.
like, why didn't I do this before? And so that's what I try to
Yes.
help people is remove the trauma, but then figure out what you want to do and then build your life around it. And that's where the miracles really start happening, is once you take that first step.
So, what inspired you to create Angel Goddess Healing?
Just the proof of what happened to me and the power of it, and knowing I had to spread it. It was this thing of, I know that's my mission here. I know
Hmm.
that because I tell people my life is great. My life, even walking through what I've been walking through, most people wouldn't even know when they talk to me what's going on behind the scenes, because it's just this thing that I embody love. I know who I am. And so if I'm going to be unconditional love, that thing that we all seek, but we won't give to ourselves, I have learned how to give myself unconditional love. And now I have the most amazing partner, and we give each other love. And it's just a different relationship. And now my daughter gets to experience what it was like me being married to someone that we didn't know how to. We had conditions. And now she gets to see us together, and she gets to see how we work through things. And so it's that
Hmm.
discernment. It's the best gift I ever gave my daughter, because I walked her through the divorce. I showed her not everything happens the way you like it. And so I remember my family being a little bit nervous how she was going to react. And I said, what if this is the best thing that's ever happened to her? Because she's going to get the boy that breaks up with her. She's not going to get into the college. She's going to have disappointments. That is life. So I can't protect her from it. All I can do is show her how to walk through it. I can't rescue her from the pain, but I can show her how to rescue herself from the pain.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And something you said that was really, really powerful, surrounding like being a coach versus being a therapist. Like as a coach, I'm coaching you through this. Like you're running down the court, and I'm right there on the side of you, and I'm telling you, look, I did this, I've been through this, so I know you can do it. Like if I can do it, you can do it, and this is how I did it. Let me show you the way. So I think that's really powerful, and feel like it's very helpful when you're dealing with people who don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. They don't
Yeah.
see a way out. They're like, I can't do this. Like I'm stuck in it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, let me tell you my story. And it's like, oh, you did it too?
Yeah.
Okay. And you look like that today? Okay. So that is extremely powerful.
Yeah.
I love that. I
But I
love
tell
that
them
a
it's
lot.
not easy, though. That's what I
Yeah.
say. I'm not saying it's easy, but I always say, I am never going to ask you to do something that I haven't done, because it's easy. That's why I think with therapy, sometimes you have no idea what their life's like. They could be going through the
Hmm.
exact same thing. You just don't know. And so with me, when I say that, there's some power in that, that I'm like, I did it. I did it. So if you want this happiness that I'm invoking and you're so drawn to, all you have to do is follow. It's just a choice. It's an offering. I always say, all I'm
Hmm.
doing is offering a a way for you to heal yourself. I'm not healing you. You don't come into my place and I just perform miracles. That's not what it
Right.
is. I am teaching them how to heal themselves.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it's realistic. And one of the things that I stress a lot is that if you're going to heal, you have to have truth. Like there's no healing without truth. Like you have to sit in it, like you said earlier, and you have to be truthful. You have to look in the mirror and say, hey, what's the issue? And then how are we going to get through it? So, yes, very, very powerful. I love it. I love it. So you believe we are love. When did the belief come to truth, like come alive?
So, like you said, I've always believed that. I've always had this just feeling. My family, friends know I've always just been the sweetest person. I'm unfortunately that person that always did it to myself. And so, what I say is there's usually two ways people do when you have trauma. Sometimes people go outwardly, and those are the people that then pass on the traumas. Or you have the people like me, and these are the people sometimes you have to be careful with, because when it's outside of it, you can clearly see they're upset. I always took the pain inside. So I always took everyone else's pain. And so I suffered. I suffered. The other people sometimes make other people suffer. I was the one that was like, let me just suffer instead. And so that was that huge thing of, because I always just was love. But in the plant medicine journey, once I got through all the perpetrator, I had then God was literally in front of me at that point. I like saw the essence of God, and I just saw it was all love. It was just love. That's all we are. As I truly feel like we're spiritual beings
Hmm.
having a human experience. And so what is a human experience? It is experiencing the motions of being a human. And so you have to, the surrender, I equate it very much to Jesus's story of you have to surrender. That's that surrendering on the cross saying, I trust my path and my purpose. And so that's what happens is sometimes we fight that human experience. There's going to be bad things that happen in my life. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And when you suffer, it's because you're stuck in it. And so what I find is as soon as stuff comes out, I come in and I meditate and I do my things, journals, whatever works for me, and I get it out. And so you have to feel it and it has to come up to come out. And so those are those things that has really helped me to see at the end of the day, when I remove all the anger and all the shame, anything else, it's just love. And so I tell people it's fear or love. And those are those two simple things. And so when I remember I'm love, I'm love. When I'm in fear, my little acronym of fear is forgetting everything already remembered. You're just forgetting your
Mm.
love. That's all it is. And so like my sister's children were over here, they're young, and I was helping them. And one did something and thought they were bad. I said, you're not bad. You're not bad. You just tried this and you didn't like it. So try this. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have the light and the dark, because if we were surrounded just in light, we would not know what that is. We wouldn't know it. So we have to have discernment of the dark. And so I just truly feel like we're all shades and we're on the scale of light and dark, and it's a scale. And some are
Mm-hmm.
way over here, and that's fear. And then some are over here, love, that's where I'm trying to stay. But sometimes you go in between. And so that's all it is. It's just shades of it. And so I've surrendered to that. I've just surrendered to knowing, but I'm now curious. So when someone's in fear and they're way over here, I want to know why, how they got there. Because my true belief is we're all of the light. We just forget. And so I'm here to help everyone just remember ultimately, we're just love. We're just love. That's it.
Absolutely. So, can you tell us about No More Monsters Under the Bed and what sparked the powerful story?
So it's a beautiful, I say it's a hybrid children's book because it's really an inner child. It's for all of us. And it's kind of clever how it came to me. It just kind of downloaded in my head, came from God. And I typed it, I wrote it in like a day or two. And then it took me a year to get it all laid out. But it's about, again, the power of forgiveness, that monster that's scary, the only way that monster to really go away that's chasing you, you have to turn around and look at it. And again, it's that opposite thing of, in order for something to disappear, you have to look at it. You have to do the opposite of it. So it's a little girl who's scared of the dark, and her mom does a little candle at night and she drifts off and she wakes up with an angel, a guardian angel over her head. And she takes her on this magical journey of helping her remember and bringing a special flashlight, because that's what it is. You have to shine your light on the dark. Because I tell people, if you're in a dark room and you take a flashlight and it just shines dark, you're going to be in the dark. But if you
Mm-hmm.
have in a dark room and you have a flashlight and has light on it and you start shining it around, you can start seeing. So that's what a lot of times I say as a coach. I'm just that person right next to you, helping you see what you want to shine that light on, those dark spots. If you want to, you don't have to. So I always tell people, you don't have to. You can stay in the dark. I found that the light for me feels way better, just like the forgiveness. I do forgiveness for me because it makes me feel better, not about the person, makes me feel good
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day. And so that's that thing. If we can just shift everything, just start shifting it, being curious. Do you like feeling that way? Do you like feeling angry every day and justified? Some people do, because then it gives them a permission slip to be bad. I mean, because my parents beat me. I'm this way because of this. And so it gives you that permission slip to hold on. But
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, that's just a story. And that's in the past. No matter what, however much anger you want to hold on to, that is never going to heal it. But you releasing it and finding love, that's how you heal yourself.
So, what is one thing that you would like for adults and children to take away from the book? I feel like everything you just said kind of answers that. But if you had to sum it up to one thing, what would that one thing be?
I always say, I have a little post-it that says, be curious, little one. It's just be curious. If anyone's listening or with their children, just be curious. When your child is acting out, they don't really want to be bad because it doesn't feel good, but they're getting something from it. There's something they're getting from it. And so sometimes when we don't get love, the other feels good, then it's something. And so just start
Mm-hmm.
being curious. Why is your child acting out? Not judging it. They're being bad today, so I'm going to put them in timeout. So I helped my sister create this thing of let's do a check-in instead of a timeout. And so she's creating this little room, and it's where when they forget who they are, they can go in there and they can look, and we're going to write things on the wall, and it's going to be these beautiful messages of helping them remember they are good. And so when they get in trouble, it just solidifies, I'm bad, I'm bad. And it's not that you're bad, you've just forgotten who
Mm-hmm.
you are. So help them remember. And if you're hurting, help find someone that helps you. It doesn't have to be. That's why I say there's so many ways. There's so many ways to get to it. Mine, I'm so strong at because it has worked for me. It's not something I'm just preaching. It's something I'm living. And so just find whatever works for you to help bring it back to make you feel good and peace and whole.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And that actually helps me. I'm like visualizing as you're talking, like different things that I can do. Because, like I told you, I have 7-year-old twin boys, and sometimes they're naughty. I like naughty better than bad.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm just visualizing like creating these affirmations and framing them and putting them on their
Yes.
walls. And like
Yeah.
if they're having a day, just make them go and say those things.
Yeah.
So it just
And
helps me out.
if they're
Hmm.
angry, what I say is, so in my book, it's kind of this beautiful thing. So I have a whole series 7 coming out after this, and they're like the no more series. So it's like no more anger. This next book I'm writing is for actually all the little boys, and it's about the anger and this fire in their chest. And they're like, what is doing? It's just growing and it's consuming him. And so you have to figure
Hmm.
out where that anger is coming from. But that's what it is. So one of them is a lion, is the sacral, the solar plexus, the lion. And so I tell my sister's kids, I'm like, when you get angry and that roar's coming, find out why. Go stand in front of the mirror and roar and scream it out. And so that's what I had to
Hmm.
do and that's the thing I tell people. I've hurt my daughter. I see that, but I come in here in my office in my sacred space and I get it out. And I have been on my hands and knees screaming from the pain. And so that's what I tell people. I have felt it. I'm not just all like, Susie Sunshine over here. I feel it. But what it is I do it in a safe space so I don't go hurt other people. So I'm not saying don't
Yes.
feel the pain. You just have to create a safe space. So let's create a safe space for a child. And when they're angry, go let them scream. When they're wiggling and they can't sit still, I say go dance then, go outside, do exercises, get the energy out. That's what it is
Hmm.
just help move through it. But when we time out, it's just sitting. They're literally sitting in that. Let's let them get it out, but let's also help them understand where it's coming from. So then if they start understanding that, oh, it's because my brain, I can't focus. So I get real agitated if too much is going on. And so they start getting acting out, but they don't even know why. That's that thing. We have to be curious, but let's help our
Hmm.
children understand their emotions and their feelings. And that's where we're creating this thing. It's called Rainbow Riders, and it's a school, and we're going to start doing children's camps. But that's what it
Oh,
is.
okay.
Yeah, my sister does equine therapy, and so we're creating this space, and we're doing retreats and women's retreats. And so my big mission is the mamas and the children. We got to help them, right? The dads,
Yes.
we'll get to you too. And my partner, he does all the men stuff, and then we do it together. But that's what it is we got to start somewhere, and that's what I've learned is start with the children because
Yes.
they're our future. They're our future, guys. And what I say is,
Yes.
this future is not looking bright. It's not looking bright because our children are dying. They're getting molested. They're shooting each other, all these things. And then wars, and we're sending them off to kill, and we're killing, and we wonder why they're angry, and they come back with all this trauma. I see vets
Hmm.
every day that want to commit suicide because of the pain they're carrying. And so I always say, guys, we're making our stand pledge allegiance. What are we pledging to? And I'm not okay with what we're pledging to. And so my mission is truly, truly to start changing these children because what happens then? What's after kids? If we are literally okay with our children being raped and bombed and tortured and killing other people, what are they going to do? What are their children going to learn? So it's that thing of we have to stop and see the system is not working, but it starts with the children.
Yes. The children are definitely the future. And whew, I just had all like these flashes of things that's happening in the world, as you were saying, that it's like, yes, it's pretty jacked up. So I mean, we do have to start with them, especially since they have such an imprint on them when they're little and they're sponges and they're soaking in everything. It's like we want them to soak in all the goodness. I mean, we can't protect them from everything. I know you know that. I know the people listening know it. But we have to do like everything in our power to protect them or at
You just
least
said
give
it.
them those avenues.
Yes, you just
Yeah.
said the answer. We don't, how we protect our children is we empower them. That's how we do it because we can't be there 24/7. But I would imagine if I empowered my daughter enough for her voice and she felt safe enough to say no, that is true power. And so that's
Hmm.
my mission is to do that, is to teach these kids their voices matter and to start
Yes,
listening to them. That is the ultimate way to protect our children, to empower them.
absolutely. So if you had to think of a song right now that represents your mental health, what would that song be?
It's funny. I don't know why this song. Well, okay, the one that I do last night in meditation. Sometimes I just do whatever songs. John Lennon,
Hmm.
Imagine. And if you
Imagine.
listen to those words and you listen, I believe that. And I have the
Hmm.
plan to do that to heal the children, but also we're going to heal the trauma of the adults. And so if we start doing that and they start coming to this like centered space, and then we start with the children, and then we start with like being born in love and light, and they know all these things, guess what? We're going to meet in the middle and we're going to have that place. It's not going to be easy, but that's what it is. We have to heal all the adults and all that trauma, but then we do the children, and then they grow up all happy and healthy, and then the parents are healed. That's that beautiful world that I know can be done. Not easy, but we have to start somewhere. And for me, the starting is talking about these uncomfortable topics that nobody wants to talk about.
Yes.
Talking about sexual
Yes.
trauma is not fun, but you know what?
Nope.
I'm like, I'll do it. I will do it because I've lived it. I've lived through
Yes.
it, and that's my mission. And I will help others live through theirs.
Yes, yes, yes. I completely agree, and that's one of the things that I have going currently on my podcast. Is I'm talking about dysfunctional family, and one of the things that's coming up is talking about like molestation. Because since I started my podcast back in 2024, I've had at least three family members come to me and like, "Oh, I never told anybody this happened to me," and I'm like, "Really?" So it's one of
I
those
live
things that nobody wants to talk about, but it's very necessary to talk about, and we got to pull that ugly band-aid off because I just feel like when it happens to one person and they don't get to heal from it, they may or may not inflict it on the next generation. And it's just a generational curse that's trickling down and it has to stop somewhere, like you mentioned earlier. So
Mhm.
yes, I'm on a mission like you, Shannon. I'm on a
I
mission.
know you are. I see you. And that's the thing with the women. My other big mission is the women. And I'm like, women, we have got to take our power back because you know what it is? We're the moms. We're supposed to be raising the children, but do we like how they're being raised? Do we like what's happening to them? Do we like sending our sons and daughters off to war? Again, no one's asking us. And so that's where I'm like, we have got to take our power back and say no. And that's why these books are no more. And this movement I'm trying to create is no more. We're done
Hmm.
with it. Like, we're done with it, guys. We don't like the way you're doing it. It's not working. So some of it is maybe ask us, the moms that are raising the children, what we like, what we like. And what I'm finding is the little boys, they need love. They need love.
Yes.
And the
And
girls, but these boys need it.
yes, I feel like for another thing with the boys is the boys it's ignored a lot because who's more likely to be molested? The little girls. So when you hear it from the boys, a
Mhm.
lot of times they're met with, "Oh, you a boy, it's okay." Like, "Yeah, that was supposed to happen. You a boy, you got some hair on your chest," you know. So it's created a norm around when it happens to the boys. I've had
Yep.
adult men tell me about stuff that happened and in their mind nothing bad happened because their uncles and their big brothers and their dad was like,
Mm.
"Oh, you a man now." It's like, no, you were molested and nobody protected you and you grew up all this time thinking that it was okay and it's not. So yeah, the I think the girls are naturally protected but the boys are kind of like, yeah, you're a
You know
boy.
what's
Toughen up.
interesting about that concept is where I am or the people I work with, it's the opposite. It's interesting. What
Mm,
I've noticed is the girls is kind of more the usual. The boys is like the shame, or at least the clients I work with, they're the ones that are carrying this real big shame. Because what I found is when molestation happens to girls, we kind of go inwards, but with boys, it's very tricky because their body tricked them, and so they carried this shame thinking they maybe liked it because maybe they had an erection. That's what happens,
mm-hmm.
right? So they use their bodies against them. And so that's where, for me, the men that I've worked actually have had the most shame because they think somehow they like were a part of it. And so it's interesting. My partner that I'm with, he was molested when he was 3, but his was a female babysitter. So it's very different. And that brings a whole different thing where his was more like, okay, it's not as bad because it was a female, but it still is. And so the male with male, that also is carrying a lot of shame and it's just not
Yes.
talked about. But yeah, I haven't seen that, but I'm sure it is in the different families and how
I
it
think it's a
happens.
black community thing, honestly.
Okay.
I think it's something
Interesting.
within the black community that was like, oh
Wow.
yeah, like
How could
yeah, I
that
had a cousin
possibly
tell me
be like
last week that his dad got had someone perform oral sex on him when he was like a teenager, and he was like, yeah,
wow.
that was, and I'm like, no, no,
That's
we're not
so,
gonna
see, I would
breeze
be
past that.
curious, but that's where I would be. I'd be curious. What do you think? What about that makes you feel like a man? And see, that goes back to my whole thing, my whole idea on we're doing the power wrong. We're putting power and money and sex and greed and all these things. So that's what it is then. Then men think all of that is that. And so what I say is
Mhm.
imagine if we taught these little boys to love and honor their moms, right? Because we're like, we live on Mother Earth, Mother Earth. Okay. We live on Mother
Mhm.
Earth. Let's look at Mother Earth. And I tell my women, look at Mother Earth. They have a breeding season. Look at Mother Nature. They don't breed all year. They let the males go off to rut and fight it out, sometimes to the death, right? But it's the best come back to breed, to procreate. And so what happens is we're kind of just over here giving the power away and then we're mad that we are. But what if we were a little more selective? Maybe we'd have a little less fighting over abortion, right? Because maybe if
Mhm.
we were selective, we wouldn't find ourselves in that. And maybe if we raise these men that honor their mother, maybe they won't
Yes.
try to do that. So the ones that need abortions because they've been molested, maybe they won't because we'll be teaching our men to honor our mother. And so that is the things that I'm talking about. Yes, I see the problems, guys,
Yes.
but I see the
Mhm.
solutions too. And it starts with us women saying, I have the power. We are the ones that give birth. We are
Yes.
the ones that literally birth life. And I feel like sometimes we've been lied to. We've been like tricked and we're like, wait a minute. I get to decide. I'm the one that gets to carry the baby. So I'm going to be a
Mhm.
little bit more selective. And maybe if we follow Mother Nature, that will lead us to the answers.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Shannon, can you please share with the audience where they can find you and get in contact with your healing community and all of those good things?
Yes, they can go on my website. It's www.angelgoddesshealing.com. And I always offer a free consultation. Anyone that's heard something here today. And then it's also, I work on a sliding scale because I'm never, ever, ever going to turn someone away that wants to heal because of money. Because again, that's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. And so I'm all about in a form of like exchange. So sometimes a lot of clients will exchange their services if they're like, I do this or I'm a CPA, whatever. And so that's what I love to do. So if anyone is curious about that, my first official like women's retreat here in Texas is in January, and we're going to be doing equine therapy and singing bowls and chanting and just like gathering some women. And then I have land up in Montana that my partner and I have that we're going to be doing healing retreats in the summer of 2026. And so it's on this beautiful space in the mountains and using Mother Nature. And so we're just trying to do that and eventually do youth camps, children's stuff, and just starting to kind of start to spread the love.
Yes, healing the community. I love it. Well, Shannon, you are an amazing individual. I love the work that you're doing. Such a beautiful soul. please continue. I know you will continue on this journey, you and your partner and everyone you have on your team. I wish you all nothing but the best in everything you're doing. And I'm going to love continuing to watch your journey and watch everything unfold and everything that you're doing. And thank you so much for coming on the Healing Version podcast and doing this interview with me. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much for all the work you do and just truly giving me a space today to share my story, but really just to help me be seen and heard. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.